Living Local Carolina with Katie Turner. Local trends, shopping, dining, and more. This is Living Local Carolina.
This segment is sponsored by AIM Acupuncture and Integrative Medicine. Well, welcome back to Living Local Carolina. Today I am at AIM Acupuncture and I'm joined by Ronald. Ronald, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. A lot better than a few weeks ago.
That's what I was going to ask about. Walk me through your journey here of how you ended up at AIM.
Well, how I ended up at AIM is about a year and a half ago. I was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
So sorry.
And I went through about 8 months of real extreme chemotherapy. And after about the third or fourth treatment of that treatment, I began losing the feeling in my hands and feet, getting a tingling, numb feeling, that type of thing. And asking the doctors over and over about it, well, you know, it's just something, you know, that's going to happen, and we'll give you some medicine, which happened to be gabapentin, and take this, and, you know, but they didn't really, you know, seem to, it kind of wasn't as important to them as it was to me. I'm not saying that critical of them, but it seems like I found out later that is a very common thing to happen to cancer patients.
Chemotherapy-induced neuropathy.
Yes, and that's what I had.
So how was it affecting your daily life?
Well, up until about 3 weeks ago, it was a point that I could hardly walk.
Oh no.
And there was a time period after the chemo treatments, I couldn't even pick up a utensil to eat with. I couldn't hold it, you know, I couldn't do anything with my hands. And of course, a lot of people describe neuropathy as a pain. I don't describe it as a pain. It's kind of something you can't describe. It's sometimes a burning, sometimes a tingling, sometimes things crawling on you feeling. And it got so bad to the point that I couldn't drive or anything. Well, one day my wife got a newspaper, I forget which, might have been North Myrtle Beach Times or something like that, but it was a local thing. And it had an article about it, and she showed it to me, and I read it, and I laid it on my little table there next to me, like, you know, well, I'm not so sure about this, you know. And of course, as wives do sometimes. Let's say she encouraged me to give it more consideration.
Okay. Well, are you glad that she did?
And I'm glad she did, because, and then I called, made an appointment, and I came up and had a consultation with Dr. Weber, and she says, we can fix this, we can make this better. And I said, okay, when can we make this better? This went on until about 3 weeks ago. My balance is back. I have the feeling back in the tips of my fingers, which I haven't had for months and months and months and months. I can feel the carpet on my feet again. You know, I don't know whether you want to call it a miracle or not, you know, but I'm telling you, anybody that's skeptical about acupuncture, who's afraid that there's pain involved with the needles, forget all that, because it is real. And they do say some people respond quicker than others, so I'm sure that might be. But I'm telling you what, after 3 weeks, I feel like I'm getting my life back a little bit.
You can't ask for more than that, you know?
And
it's just going to keep getting better and better.
Yeah.
If you're only 3 weeks in, you're getting these results.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It's just, I would have never believed it till I experienced it. So.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story, Ronald.
And I hope anybody out there who's suffering with this same thing, don't blow it off. Make the phone call. It's worth it.
We'll be back right after this break with more Living Local Carolina.
Well, welcome back to Living Local Carolina. We got a hot topic today. Hot and cold, how to keep dogs nice and cool,
Yes.
or warm and toasty.
That's right.
Joyelle, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you for stopping by today.
Yes.
Give me some tips.
Sure. So right now, as you know, we are in a heat wave. So it's very, very hot for our dogs. So primarily, you need to pay attention to how hot the ground is. When the temperature is around 80 degrees, your asphalt is about 115.
Not fun.
Not fun at all. So what that actually can do is to burn blisters on the bottoms of your dog's feet. So it's very, very important. Top of the line, you need to make sure it's not too hot. Unfortunately, I see people walking their dogs in the heat of the day all the time. And I continue to say, it is too hot outside, what are you doing? So it's really, really important because those blisters, it just creates very much blisters on the bottoms of their feet, and it can really damage their feet. So really be mindful of that. Walk in the earlier morning times or in the later evening times, okay?
Gotcha.
Also provide enough water. So if you have outside dogs, which I don't recommend having dogs in the heat of the day outside, but if it's not possible, make sure you provide them enough shade and you bring them in when you're able, provide enough water for them. Now, going to cold. So it's really important, again, to take care of your dog's feet. Lots of times people throw out the ice melt or the salt to help prevent any slipping and sliding. That also can damage your paw's feet as well because it gets into their paws and then they'll lick it and it contains all those chemicals that are dangerous for dogs. So it's really important that you wipe their feet off, clean them off. Again, providing enough water and enough food for them. If it's super cold outside, bring them inside or in a warm area. If they happen to be outside, provide a home for them that's a little bit raised up off the ground. Put some shavings or something like that in there so they're not laying directly on the ground. It's very, very important.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Shedding. And do you have any tips? Because I've heard that it's not good to shave dogs
Sure.
because it messes up their coats. Is that true?
Oh, so I would definitely say talk to your groomer about that, but there are tools that you can use. There's like a de-shedder. It's really important because you need to at least brush your dog to get all of the excess hair off of them, especially during the winter months. They're going to blow their coat anyway.
The following portion of Living Local Carolina is sponsored by Horry County Solid Waste Authority. Well, this is my first time actually at the Horry County Solid Waste Authority's headquarters, and it's for a special reason. I'm joined by Kaisley. How are you doing today?
Good, how are you?
I am great. So a little birdie told me that you won Recycling Student of the Year.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, tell everybody, where are you from? What school do you go to?
I go to Green Sea Floyd's Elementary and I'm from Mount Olive.
Very cool. How did it feel to win Student of the Year?
It felt really good, but I was very surprised.
Really? Why were you surprised?
Because I wasn't told and I knew that I was going to be going against a lot of kids that were older than me and I knew it was going to be very hard to do.
Well, I also have just heard that you did a very good job on your essay, so why don't you tell everybody a little bit about what you wrote?
So I wrote how I have done many things to help people learn how to recycle. And at school, I have started recycling cans and bottles, and I've made many posters. And at home, I've taught other people how to recycle, and I've taught my younger siblings how to recycle.
Really?
Yes, ma'am.
So tell me about your younger siblings.
So they're 3 years old, and they're boy and girl twins.
No way. You're starting them young, too. So one thing I love about whenever I get to do Talking Trash stuff is that you're really starting to learn about recycling at such a young age, being in 4th grade. But how long have you loved recycling?
So I've liked recycling for a few years now, but I haven't truly loved it until I went on my Solid Waste Authority recycling field trip and learned all about it, and it taught me much more about it, and now I truly love it a lot.
I love that so much. So is there anything else that you want people to know about recycling or anything else from your essay that you want to share?
You need to always remember the 3 R's, reduce, reuse, and recycle, and no matter how old you are, you can make a huge difference in this world.
How were you able to talk to your peers about it?
So I made a poster for 5th grade since they're the oldest in the school that taught them all about it and taught them some fun facts and went and talked to them about it.
That was a smart idea, getting the older kids involved so it can be a trickle-down effect. I like it.
ma'am.
The preceding portion of Living Local Carolina is sponsored by Horry County Solid Waste Authority.
We'll be back right after this break with more Living Local Carolina.
The following portion of Living Local Carolina is sponsored by Book Writing Founders. Well, welcome back to Living Local Carolina. Today I am joined by an author in the studio, Barry Wood. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We're going to dig right on into your first book that you've ever published. Tell me all about it.
Oh, all about it. Well,
Yeah.
it's called Jack's Cabinet. It was essentially drawn from, the backstory on it is longer than probably this allows, but it was drawn from a literal cabinet in our kitchen. Our oldest son, Jack, had this particular cabinet set aside for him to be able to play in the kitchen, not get underfoot. You can keep a couple toys in there because you're always going to be in the kitchen because mom or dad's in the kitchen.
Yeah.
We're like, this is Jack's cabinet. And then our second son came along, Gray, who's the hero of the book, was by name. Since it's fantasy by name. One day we were just in the kitchen talking with my wife Alexia, and I just looked down and Gray's head first in the cabinet, feet dangling out, and it's hilarious. It's one of those hilarious moments. And I just had this flash of, what if he just kept crawling in and just disappeared?
Yeah.
And that was essentially the eruption point for Jack's Cabinet, and what it turned into in the book, and how it morphed into this thing where our hero Grayson ends up being contacted by a voice through Jack's Cabinet, but from another place, and they start developing one of those secret child friendships. You know, like we see kids with imaginary friends that are talking to somebody.
Yeah.
This is his imaginary friend Calliope, who's actually a real person, but through Jack's Cabinet, through that, and he goes to this magical land, and I came up with this name. I think I was just doing some research, and I came up with this name for the place, Mikil Gavatha. And it
That's
was like
a mouthful.
It is. And it was like essentially it's a loose translation of it for the book, not for real language for everybody. No real languages, but for the book was Great Bowl, because the land it was drawn from was the shape of a massive bowl.
Yeah.
And I always envisioned something like the Yosemite caldera, that massive nature of landscape.
Yeah.
where this land is, and we just call it that. So that's where it starts.
right.
And he's drawn in by his friend Calliope, and there's the transition where he goes through Jack's Cabinet and his first venture into this tangled forest within Mikil Gavatha, and meets her, and she introduces herself as his friend. He's never seen her before. It's always just been a voice in his mind, and he meets her and all that. And the adventure ensues where she dumps this massive duty upon him that he has to.
Of course, the hero's mission.
Of course, the hero's quest. I'm a huge fan of the hero's quest. I was a big fan of Joseph Campbell, and I'm drawing a lot from what he wrote and what he did a lot of work on with spelling out and creating the hero's myth and what its basic components are. And I use that quite a bit to keep the framework in, to make sure we tell a complete story as much as possible, but unique as far as being this little kid who's about 2.5 years old in the story when it first starts.
Well, I also love that you were able to draw inspiration from your actual day-to-day life. Something that might, to the average person seem mundane, but to you, you're able to draw this mythical story from it. That's really cool.
Oh yeah. We live on a wooded lot on St. Helena Island, South Carolina, and we spend a lot of time out back cleaning up the wood line, and it is magical. Anybody that's been in the South Carolina Lowcountry knows where all those great oaks are.
Oh, of course.
And so we draw a lot from where they're out there running around, and I see them by some weirdly shaped tree. I'm like, that's going to be in the book.
I love that. Interesting. Very interesting.
It's just some little click. It just from seeing them tool around as little kids.
Awesome. Well, I know someone was watching right now. They want to know where they can get their hands on the book. Where can they find it?
Best venue for it is Amazon. It's
All
readily
right.
available through Amazon. That was a big push with Book Writing Founders, was to make it easily accessible.
Awesome.
Don't forget to like our page on Facebook and follow us on Instagram and Twitter. How to use the QR code. Just open the camera app on your smartphone, iPad, or tablet. Point your device at the QR code so the QR code appears on your screen. Your device will recognize the QR code and show you a notification. Click that notification and you'll come to our website. Living Local Carolina, weekday mornings at 9:30 on WBTW News 13.